Greetings shippers, welcome back, and it's actually time to tackle a ship that is having its genesis at the time of this recording, and that means something very exciting and rare on this channel. We're on time. We're going to be taking a look at another gaming ship, this time coming from the world of David Cage. This being his latest outing, Detroit Become Human. The pairing in question is Hannor, sometimes known as Conk, the pairing of Hank Anderson and Connor, the android sent by Cyberlife. Now this game is relatively new at the time of this recording, so there may be some people who are still playing through it or are waiting to play it. So, you know what that means. Spoilers. There may be some minor spoilers talking about the story or some visual spoilers, so if you don't want any, then it's best to get out now. Before we get started, please be sure to follow on social media so you stay up to date with everything that we're doing. That includes the weekly Tuesday live stream at 9 p.m. EST and just some random gaming streams that just happen spontaneously. Be there. It's a good time. We actually also came up with a Connor crack ship. More on that later. And now, let's talk about Hannor. Detroit Become Human is an immersive adventure game developed by Quantic Dream and written and directed by David Cage, a veteran in the field of games, sometimes colloquially known as Choices Matter. This being games wherein the player's actions have direct and very real consequences on the story, sometimes setting one on a path that cannot be altered, which greatly increases the replay value. The game also switches between multiple protagonists, meaning that there are many views to explore, which allows for parallel storytelling, narrative intersection, and greater world building, and of course, multiple perspectives. While certainly not for everybody, Detroit Become Human has become Quantic Dream's most successful outing to date, and more than rewarded the years put into its development. From extensive research on the ever-growing field of AI to extensive motion capture, and just many years of graphics and development, though there are still many who will complain about the camera controls. Now, Detroit Become Human faced some controversy even before its release, following its trailer, as some did not take kindly to the showcasing what kind of choices the player would have to make. And indeed, since its release, the game has not been universally well received, with some feeling it is exploitative, derivative, or appropriating in how it utilizes historical themes allegorically. However, on the whole, the audience's general reception has been positive, and has begun to garner quite an active and creative fan base, this being all types of fans from curative to transformative, and anything beyond and in between. Of course, what this means is that there are ships that have begun to set sail, and currently within the fandom, the most shipped character is Connor, who many fans have gravitated towards as being one of the more complex and sympathetic characters within the game. Although of course, this very much depends upon your playthrough, as depending upon the routes one takes or does not take, Connor can appear more or less sympathetic. This will also play according to how one feels about android and AI sentience in general. However, be that as it may, for many fans, Connor has achieved cinnamon roll status, that being a character that is very kind and sweet, but faces more hardship and suffering than they truly deserve. As a result, many want to explore different facets of his character and the various narrative turning points he undergoes, and this has culminated in what is currently his dominant ship of choice for many, between him and his partner Hank Anderson, Hannor. Now this ship is actually growing quite rapidly and also equally along two lines, that being romantically and platonically, specifically with those gravitating towards the father-son dynamic that the game has in play for these two characters, again depending upon the playthrough. So we will take a look at both, and what people like and don't like about each, and why some prefer one over the other. So first off, when it comes to either the familial or the romantic, what is the appeal? Well, for many it comes down to the dynamic established between the characters. Both are sent to investigate the outbreak of deviancy amongst the android population, and you have two popular character archetypes at play, that being the grizzled, hardened, hard-drinking detective with a tragic backstory, and the eager young rookie seeking to ingratiate himself and solve the case with an earnestness that the former no longer possesses, although also with a tiny hint of darkness of his own. From the start, as he states it is part of his programming, Connor seeks to be pleasant and wants to be liked, in attempts that become more and more genuine if you take the path towards deviancy. Following a certain path, as the game progresses, they grow closer and closer and are revealed to care more and more about each other, potentially forming an unshakable and genuine bond. Depending upon paths taken, it can involve catharsis, sacrifice, and more, and regardless of what path the character chooses, it is one of the most intense, meaningful relationships within the game for both characters. One of the biggest pushes for this ship is what occurs at the end of the good ending, although whether you find it good is a mileage that will vary. This being an after-credit sequence between the two after this ending is achieved. This moment can be read in a variety of ways, but be it platonic or romantic, it galvanized fans of these two to write many post-game fics alongside all of the missing scenes and jumping on points the game already provided. So now let us go through the pros first on the romance side. Many are drawn to what they feel is the slow burn of this relationship and the level of care shown as these two begin to become friends and see a cute couple dynamic emerging, often culminating with fics of the two living together with Sumo. Cohabitation is a must no matter how people ship these two. Fans feel that Connor could help Hank improve his lifestyle habits and self-confidence, confidence, while simultaneously feeling that Hank would be supportive of Connor navigating his newfound personhood, and support whatever decision he chose to make. Many enjoy exploring further cases with these two, but either add an established relationship element or working in the first-time discovery of feelings into these works. Some are of course drawn to the mentor-mentee dynamic, or the android needing to learn to be human dynamic. As for jumping on points, some fans will cite any scene between the two, but some key ones that are repeated aside from the post-credits sequence already mentioned are the two's investigation of the Eden Club, the investigation of the broadcasting tower, and Connor coming to find Hank in a drunken stupor. All of these people feel lead to significant character development between these two, and these are just a few moments. Again, as mentioned, more could be named. As for platonically, some feel that given what the player potentially learns about Hank and his son, that he clearly views Connor if not as a replacement, then as a second chance, and that the protective streak he shows towards him is much more on a familial level than a romantic one. This also lines up a bit more with the gameplay already presented, so requires less of a leap or reading of certain scenes with a more subtextual slant.
What about you, Connor? You look human, you sound human, but what are you really?
I'm whatever you want me to be, Lieutenant.
These fics will often deal more with the idea of the shifting worldscape following the pacifist ending, and how everyone adapts. What does Connor do? How does he cope with deviancy? Can he integrate with androids? What about humans? How is Detroit? So regardless of what one gravitates towards, one gets creative works. And of course, one's preference will be determined partially by how they read the gameplay and partially by their own worldviews, as well as how they feel about the tropes in play. And of course, it must be noted that some will get into this fandom either from art or after one playthrough, or after watching a Let's Play or clips, which can add fuel to shippers, as that allows fans to see all eventualities without having to take the many hours required to play through the game, multiple times, which as a result can help the fandom grow a little faster than it might have otherwise. And this variety can add great depth and actually inform others of certain plot events or elements that they may not have known about otherwise. Now of course, as with any ship, this one is not for everyone, and of course has its cons. For most, the cons center more around the romantic suggestion of this pairing, but for some, they're not feeling this duo in any capacity. So why would that be? Well, as mentioned earlier, some find quite large swaths of this game to be derivative, and for many the buddy cop investigation plots fall right in line with that, and they are simply not as interested in them as other aspects, as some feel that the added AI intelligence arc doesn't give it enough of a twist. Again, this very much aligns with one's personal preference and how much of the genre a fan has or hasn't consumed. Others do not like one or both characters, as indeed depending upon the Connor one is working with, mileage can and will vary, especially if one is having trouble accepting the portrayal of themes of oppression within the text. And of course, let's not forget Hank. Some people are tired of the loose cannon detective. Others draw upon different concerns, some seeking a commonly cited critique in many fandoms at the time of this recording, though it works less well in this one, that being age difference. Some feel that Connor is too young for Hank, not in the sense of how he appears, but in the sense of how old he physically is. However, others are quick to point out that Connor is an android, and while technically he is 1, or perhaps younger, he has been programmed with the mindset, sensibilities, and thought patterns of an adult. And indeed, many use this as an opportunity to explore perceptions of age gaps through Hank as a character, exploring his insecurities about being with someone who appears so young. And others feel that if one is to be concerned about something, there are more pressing issues, namely consent. Some feel that as an android programmed to integrate and be congenial, Connor could not fully consent to a relationship, and hence placing him in one with a human with full agency is problematic. However, others feel that the androids have free will, and that he is perfectly capable of making his own decisions. Others feel this only applies if he is deviant, as the game labels it. However, for some, it opens up that discussion and gives the relationship an uncomfortable edge. And for others, regardless of what the ages actually are, simply the appearance of someone who is so much older with someone who appears so much younger is too much and makes the ship repellent for them. And of course, not all who enjoy the familial aspect are happy to sit quietly while the romantic ship looms on the horizon, and in some people's minds is beginning to overtake that more platonic ship, as they feel that these fans are misinterpreting the dynamic, and forcing an incestuous tone onto this relationship where it does not belong, and that it is yet another example of shippers seeing romance everywhere and looking at things with shipping goggles. While some who prefer the romantic relationship feel that those who are leaning towards the familial side of things are missing out on some key subtext, and enjoy playing with narratives that they feel play out better in a romantic sense than a familial one. And of course, it is possible to like both, although for some that is too much of an exercise in cognitive dissonance. And some simply dislike the relationship and feel that it is not a healthy one, with there being too much anger or dislike on Hank's part towards androids, with Connor potentially not actually liking Hank but using him to get to his ultimate mission goal, or perhaps as the birth of a codependent relationship. As always, there are many different ways to view these things. All of this, of course, can lead to friction, and while this does occur, it is nowhere near as bad as in other fandoms, though Though of course this does not cheapen the discomfort of those experiencing it, especially as not everyone hops from multiple fandoms, so for some this may be their only fandom experience, or the only one they are currently experiencing. And of course this is not the only ship, and there are some who prefer the characters, particularly Connor, with other characters from the game. Different strokes for different folks. On the whole, this fandom and ship is enjoying its boom and burst of popularity at the time of this recording, and fan interaction is currently booming, and works are being produced at an extremely fast rate. So if one is interested, it is an exciting time to join. Conversely, if one likes to avoid fandom bustle, it may be best to wait. Brian Deckert, Connor's voice and motion capture actor, is a particular highlight, taking great delight in interacting with fans, retweeting fan art and events, and live streaming playthroughs of himself playing the game, which has the fandom very much engaged, and is definitely helping fuel the Connor zeal. And there are others from the cast who are just as enthusiastic. So at the moment, it is certainly a relatively positive fandom to be a part of. So have you played this game, or encountered it in some capacity? And if so, did you like it? Why or why not? Do you have any ships? Is Connor a cinnamon roll? Do you just want to eat a cinnamon roll now? Answer all of this and more down below, and you know the drill. Number them if you can. Also, last chance to get me your Broner fan art before we do the crack ship vid. Broner, also known as Kroner, because yes, even in this tiny crack ship, we've got two names because we're official like that, is the pairing between Craig from Dream Daddy and Connor, the android sent by Cyberlife. It's the pairing you didn't know you needed or wanted. You're welcome. If you're interested in knowing how this happened, there will be a special vid that I promised in the live stream. So come to the live stream. Odd things happen there. Wonderful things. Beautiful things. Anyways, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it shipping and talking about fandom with me. Until next time, may your fandom be full of fundom, and let's get to the outro. Bye-bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons, names on the side, and get ready for next month's exciting vote for the next monthly video. As always, much more to come, so please stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.